People that need to change.
Today, British comedian, actor, and activist Russell.Brand. He's come out with a new book. It's called simply Revolution. Once known.
Well, I gotta stop you right there, Russell. Who's your granddad? That's what you've got to know, you know. Well, perhaps we commoners, as it were, you know, those of us without documented bloodlines, you know, and all the rest of it, you know, we're sort of a general pool of DNA which stretches back probably to the Romanian remains, you know, or the Anunnaki, or, you know, those of us who have got something like, in addition to the mammalian overlay of the brain, in this reptilian aspect, you know, which most of us who wake up to it at a fairly early age, you know, overcome it by not making enemies with anybody, and probably a bit later on giving up on eating meat. You know, things like that people don't really think about because, by the way, I'm sure Russell and your general listeners are quite aware of the fact that the British have a wide range of dialects and styles and manners of addressing one another. And in the appropriate social situation, if one, you know, takes on a sort of, what can I say, superior, dominant view, one could probably pass as one of the aristocracy. You know? I really don't understand why the British Empire has been let fail the way it has. Well, of course, we've been hanging out those American people. There's no subtlety at all. And being overrun by Romanians, for goodness sake. I know. What's the bloodline thing? You see, they're bringing all their, you know, distant relatives in. You know? I know. Well, you know.
Well, those of us that are bleeding original bloodlines, you know, has really picked up with all this stuff going on here. You know, we expected to be living the kind of life that men laid their lives down for. And what? What we get? Bleeding cardboard medals, and then training our boys to go over there and slaughter a poor bloody bunch of bleeding men and women, children, Arabs, so that, you know, some guy get a rubber leg if he gets it blown bleeding off. I mean, they're bloody heads. You know what it is? In Canada, you know, they've got to wear these little hats. Oh yeah, the Canadian hat, it's impossible to have a brain within. What they do is they get a beret, right, like we did in the Air Force. You get your regular beret, and then you got to melt it. You know, you got to treat it. Yeah, you got to, you know, what is it? First you got to steam it, and then you got to boil it, and then you got to polish the leather again, so the hat gets smaller and bleeding smaller and smaller, and eventually, when one of them elite groups with really tight hats, right? You know, you can go and do acts of extraordinary bleeding ugliness, you know, and come out of it with about 3 weeks before you blow your own bleeding brains out. Don't know how they do that. I think it's a tight hat though. Yeah. Anyway, we haven't had a good old black op here in some time. Wasn't till last Friday, was it? Oh yeah. You know, they do like to throw a black op once in a while, you know, so that the unthinking peoples of the world will be totally engaged in what is it, Russell? You know what it is, a conflict of purposes. Conflict of purposes. And as you were pointing out, you know, there's all this bleeding, I've got to stop swearing, all this, what is it? I don't know, Russell, you do a good job, and the bit you did with, Amy was lovely. Oh, it was nice. And I too, like Norm, you know, he's a very, Russell, I've only one thing to say about you and everybody. God bless us all. There is a higher power for goodness. When we have died a few times, some of us have, I'm sure you have, if you've done serious drugs as I have, I still use the blessed herb. I mean, to me, this is still a power for goodness. It is a sacred herb.
I went to the Supreme Court of Canada on it. I grew it publicly. I do civil disobedience. And we're all in the same boat. But we've swum the moat around the castle with the alligators in it. We've clawed our way up the wall which hung out over us, slippery. Fortunately, on the way up, Russell, there was toads. Oh, yes. And when we finally, hey, throw down the hair, the hair. And then first of all, they threw Charles out the window. No, not the hair, and I crawl up some more, and I look in the window, and with the beautiful maiden, oh, the maiden that we love so much. Oh, no. Unfortunately, she ate too much, drank too much, didn't feel good about much, didn't like her old man much, didn't care for anything too much. But there was the opportunity always, oh yes, the final opportunity to recognize the power of the crown, oh yeah. And that would be, the revelation of the myth of money